And welcome back to the Rancor Pit. We covered quite a bit last video, and it was all about my custom stuff. Now, Groundzero'S Customs is what I called originally my big mega thread that I had on the Wizards of the Coast forum, where I was posting a whole bunch of stuff in the Praxium and whatnot. And Ground Zero is the internet name I used to go by a long time ago. And I just grew away from the name and picked other ones. Let's see. It took almost 20 minutes to get through all the rest of that stuff last video, so let's go ahead and just dive off into what I was still speaking about from before. Now, you guys all remember this. I rushed through the Galactic Bailiff. I haven't really play tested it. I made one once, and it just the Chronicle didn't last. So, what I will start off with is something I'm actually really proud of. In the Galactic Campaign Guide, I'm pretty sure that's where it is, which is up there. There is a subsection in the book, subsection in the book that specifically speaks about bloodlines. It chronicles Anakin's, it chronicles Luke's. You see where I'm going? It tells you a way to actually make your own bloodlines, and it's not as easy as you may think, because you have to first think of backstory. Then you have to decide whether or not it's going to be a part of canon or happened within canon time. And then you have to consider what it will do, what it won't do, how it manifests, the bonuses, the secret bonuses that you don't get until much later, and then the drawbacks of having it. I did make one, and I specifically predicated it off of some expanded universe information. Let's see if I can bend this. Igotex. Complicated name. The backstory has to do with the Eye of Palpatine. You'd have to do a bit of expanded universe digging to figure out what the Eye of Palpatine is. Basically what it was a machine meant for re-education. So that if somebody within the Empire was starting to wane in their loyalty, or their trust was misplaced or affected, or they were influenced somehow, you'd go into the Eye of Palpatine for some re-education. That, of course, is a very dark term, because that used to be a term that we used as a society some time ago for various abhorrent and inhuman things. And it had to deal with a group of Gamorreans who ended up being stuck in there, into the Eye of Palpatine. And it didn't work. And they escaped, and to be a part of the Igotek bloodline, whenever you have to end up... the Storm Riders is actually what I called it because of what they can do. They're severely telekinetic. I love one takes. Telekinetically empowered force beings, to the point when you can actually use the Force Whirlwind feat out of the RCR book, and you get to start adding what would normally not be added to it, except to attack, like your force points. Whenever you spend a force point, you can add bonuses to attack. You can also add it to damage in this case. The drawback is that whenever they end up becoming a part of the bloodline in the first place, you can't take any of the sense force feat or any other feats that are underneath sense. And anytime a force point is used in the protection of children or a child, it must be immediately drawn from the dark side due to what it took to escape the Eye of Palpatine. It's really in-depth. It's got a really good backstory to it. My friend, one of the gamers, he's my old friend, he made one once, and it actually worked. That's why I'm really proud of it, of its creation. I'll talk more about them another time, so I don't take up the whole video with just that. I also painstakingly went on the net, and, oh, there goes my Rancor. Huh, that figures. Sleep. I painstakingly compiled a list of lightsaber crystals. And originally this list was for Saga. I couldn't find a individual to do any of the transference from Saga back to RCR for me, so I did it myself. It wasn't easy. Most of the gems I didn't know about. Some of the gems I knew from the KOTOR games, from Knights of the Old Republic. And I took the information I knew about KOTOR and the information I read about online about each one of these, and I'm just melded them together and selected out the RCR components that I would have need to make them legitimately, obtainable. They're just very hard to get a hold of because of all the abilities that they let you do and everything they let you tap into. It's not like in D&D where you end up with a plus 10 weapon and it's all okay and you got plus 10 armor and you're vanquishing, liches at the drop of a hat. To actually get a lightsaber additive crystal outside of the normal Adigan color crystal, it's a big deal. Because usually, what I was doing before was I was letting too much of it enter into the gameplay, and I found that it really overpowered it too quick. So I kind of dialed it back to where you had to end up spending extra force points and going on a quest and looking for it and searching for it and sensing for it, and then you would eventually find one. In my loot list, my magic item list, as it were, there are a few in there. Some of them are like normal big name ones, like the Opari, the Solar, the Duranid Fire Gem, all that stuff. Those are in there, but they're like in the Mega Chart, which is the highest stuff you can get a hold of, and they're very hard to roll. So it's not like I'm just throwing it at players anymore. Other prestige classes I wanted to talk about, I have in my little mini notebook. One was the Wild Cannon. I actually made one here recently. There's no splash damage in RCR at all. There's the grenade splash damage and the thermodet splash damage, but there's no actual cover area capability, even with weapons that use multi-fire and or auto-fire. So I created what's called the Wild Cannon, which is literally you're carrying around the equivalency of a minigun. I did obviously predicate this off a bit off of the capabilities and area of effect damage from Blaine from Predator. Awesome movie. So taking that into account, I did a lot of abilities that would let you hit an area. I did an ability that would let you lessen the penalty, because it is a hefty penalty per shot. Because the weapons you have to use don't fire single shots. Either they fire multi-fire, which is the base, which is multiple shots already, or they fire auto-fire, which is literally just hitting the trigger and letting it run. And those negatives are super huge. So this gives you back a couple of bonuses back to that, but not much. Never out of ammo is one of the abilities, so that usually in Star Wars, for the most part, if you have a blaster technology, or especially if it's slug thrower technology, and you roll a 1, you botch. Basically what happens is you energy dump the clip. Because it's a power pack for blaster technology, literally there's just a malfunction and the clip drains all of its shots. Now, not so much of a problem whenever you've got a standard power pack into a blaster cannon. It's like an RPG. Blaster cannons only have 6 shots, right? But whenever you're using a regular blaster pistol, I should say, blaster pistol, there we are, it's 100 shots. So if you just start a firefight with a brand new pack and you botch, that's all, energy's gone, power pack's done, has to be recharged with a Ramtech or at an authorized dealer. And you're sitting there changing, power packs every other round. This way, there's a way to avoid it, just because you're so adept with using something that uses so much energy. Or, you could hook it up to a modified power source and carry it on your back, which is serious business, because it's rather big. Another prestige class I made, besides that, was the Rhodian Tweaker. I talked about this a little bit before, and that was specifically predicated off of the first Bad Boys movie, and I spoke about why. It's all about using intimidation and using two weapons at the same time. There comes a point when you can actually be able to do an intimidate check, which is normally a full round action. Star Wars at 6 full seconds. You could do a lot of damage with a blaster pistol in 6 seconds, but you'll be able to fire and use intimidate at the same time. That's some serious business, considering what you can do with intimidate in Star Wars, because it works differently than D&D. You can also do extended demoralization, which means bigger crowd, bigger negatives. They see you, they're all afraid of you at the same time. It's harder to hit people, when you're afraid. One of the other ones was an Iron Palm. I did kind of take a lot of inspiration from Bayodur from KOTOR 2. specifically with the Iron Palm Prestige class, it uses all unarmed combat, because that's, if you play KOTOR 2 and you go through and you get a hold of Beodur, whether you go light or dark, doesn't matter. If you foolishly make him into a lightsaber wielding character or a blaster wielding character, it's a complete waste of the character. His energy arm has the ability to break through shields, and later in the game, a lot of the baddies in the game actually start to use shields all the time. Tough shields that not even lightsabers can go through, and it just starts eating up your damage, and in the meantime, they're just killing you in the process. If you send him in there, first shot, break the shield, and you put it all on your stack to break everybody's shields, his unarmed damage goes up faster and does a lot more good in a party than it would making him a Jedi, which, being a Jedi in the KOTOR games is obviously awesome. But in his case, I found that it just was a waste. So the Prestige class that I made was taken from that and from Shaolin Iron Palm training. It has many, many different forms and names and types, but it's essentially what they used to do is they used to take sand, very, very fine-grained sand, and they would heat it up, and then you have to run your hands through it. Well, this would build up a tolerance to the heat first. Then they would go to rough grit sand and be bigger. They'd hold more heat. Eventually, you'd be like, grabbing rocks, hot rocks out of a brazier, and your hands would be so hard and calloused that you wouldn't feel it anymore. It would also mean that you would have the capability of having such an empowered, unarmed strike that you'd be able to break through doors, break weapons, be able to stop weapons for that matter. The Iron Palm I did base off of as an homage to Beodur, the Zabrak species. And it's easiest to become an Iron Palm when you're a Zabrak, or you can go through like a rigorous, first you have to find where it's hidden in the mountain, in the Iridonia Mountains. And you have to have a positive strength modifier, and then you have to find the masters and convince them to teach you. You eventually you're able to sunder, you're able to do more damaging when sunder, you're able to do what I call snap kick, which is an ability that lets you, if the Iron Palm studies her target for at least one round, you can make a single unarmed melee attack against her highest base attack bonus as a full round action, while targeting the head, and receive a -10 to the defense of your target. Because usually whenever you target like the head, it's one of the smallest portions, it's like +13 to their defense. Targeting somebody's head is like impossible, right? So that gives you the ability to study it and then place one well-aimed kick right to the side of the head. Eventually it lets you do a whole lot more unarmed damage while sundering, and you can see the unseen, which gives you, I kind of modeled it a bit later in this. I kind of modeled it a bit off of the Shaolin's technique of Death Touch, the Dim Mak. Actually, it's what I called it was Dim Mak because I knew what the term meant. It kind of gives you the ability similar to a monk's quivering palm in D&D, where you can use it and kind of also thematically like it was in Kill Bill 2, the 5 touch technique, and then that was it, and you'd have 5 steps before you die. And I did kind of model it off of that, but using it too many times would make you really dark really fast. And in Star Wars, once you become tainted, you start to do far more violent action than you would normally. Once you become dark, your character sheet becomes mine as the GM. You lose it. Because if it's not a dark campaign, you're not playing a dark character. Redemption is very hard to do. Case in point, Darth Vader was only redeemed whenever he picked up the Emperor and took the Force Lightning for Luke, was sitting there being shocked to death as he threw him down into the energy conduit. That was the beginning of his redemption. So, and he died from it. Usually happens. That's the way it is. When you redeem yourself in Star Wars, when you're that dark, you usually die. The other big prestige class that I'll get to in just a second, because I wanted to mention a few other things. One of which was, whenever I was talking about the custom stuff that I was making, it wasn't just weapons, and it's not just prestige classes. I actually went a full other step further. Canox. If anybody has played KOTOR at all, Canox, Boma Beasts, Greater Boma Beasts, Chirax, I actually went through and made some of the creatures using the rules in the Ultimate Adversaries book, the one I featured at the beginning of the video. I actually went and made some of the creatures, which, again, it's not easy to do because you have to adjudicate how tough they're going to be, how many levels they have, and in what type of creature category. Herd animal, predator, vermin, scavenger, whatever. And it took quite a bit. And I even went so far as to say, with the Cannock, if you're able to kill a Cannock and you don't reach -20 wound points, because usually -10 wound points, you're dead, right? You die, you're not coming back, that's it. If you can kill it without hitting -20, what I basically did was what the game did. The game, whenever you killed Cannock, it usually give you something because Cannocks eat everything. If they attack somebody and that person was like loaded with gear, the gear would be partially inside of them still. So I even went to the extreme to say if you don't hit 20 wound points, if you don't fully like maul the body, you would actually get like 6 minor rolls for stuff. There could be all kinds of crap in there. Thermodets, a block of spice, blaster pistols, power packs, comm links. I mean, it'd just be crap inside of a Cannock that would fall out after you killed it. So I did do creatures too. And there was I did mention the Star Wars game I had on my tablet. I still have it, but I haven't played it in so long. It's the other Star Wars game. It's not the Galaxy of Heroes one. It's the one that came before that. That was using scripts. And I did create a method to get scripts in order to go to your local like junk dealer and be able to take pulls out of his pile. And you could trade in scripts for basically stuff, you could go up and you can have like 10 scripts on you, which would basically be like just like redeemable like vouchers is all it is for crap. You could have like 10 scripts. You say, okay, I want to pull off of a 10 script pile. So you would pick up a D6 as a player, you'd roll it, and I've already marked off what you get. Let's say you roll a 2, you'd get 700 credits worth of junk. That's more than enough to make a blaster pistol or a heavy blaster, I think. And there, free stuff. You just, in that case, with junk, you'd have to make it. The last thing I want to talk about that I'm going to let run long in the video is one of the prestige classes that I'm very, very proud of overall, all the other ones. It was the Dark Star Hellions. Now, this is pathetic little notebook is the only place that it's in. Dark Star Hellions was a group that was mentioned in the expanded universe, and you can hit up Wikipedia to go check out who and what they were. I modeled it directly after the mindset. There's my cute daughter. I may have to... Yeah, her nap's over. So I'll get to the Dark Star Hellions next time. Okay. Sorry, guys. This video will run short because her nap's over, but that's okay. So I'll get to the Dark Star Hellions next video. You're just going to have to wait. I can talk about it in far more depth, and I'll actually break down the prestige class for you guys, okay? Again, sorry it ran short. If you liked the video, sorry, I had the timer on my stupid Roku set to only 5 minutes. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and share. And if there is anything else you would like to hear about Star Wars before I flip again, after I speak about this. If there's anything else you guys would like to hear about Star Wars, leave it in the comments. If not, after next video, when I talk about the Hellions and some other stuff. After next video, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flop to White Wolf. I won't have a huge amount to talk about White Wolf in the physical sense, like notes and whatnot. I do have like storylines written down and stuff. But I've got, since 1997, I've got quite a bit stuck in my head about White Wolf characters, chronicles, games that I've run, games that I've played in, and storylines that have run like multiple years into multiple SKUs. So until next video, I promise we'll get to the Dark Star Hellions, and until next video, you guys take it easy, okay? Grab your dice, roll initiative.